If you've seen Wonder Woman and you were asked to say what the best scene was, do you have one in mind? Is it the one I'm thinking of? Is it the one everyone's thinking of? Guess what? It almost didn't get in the movie at all, which would have been awful. I'm talking about the scene that I think a lot of people find moving in a very triumphant, a very positive way. And this is after Diana has seen the horrors of war. She's seen soldiers with their legs and arms blown off. She's seen crying mothers and children. She has seen horrible things. Steve wants to go. She's like, no, we have to pause. We have to help these people. And suddenly you see the most, because we've been getting teases of it, but she finally rises from the trenches into no man's land in her full glory, her full Wonder Woman armor, her costume, and she is ready to start probably the biggest ass-kicking scene of the movie.
It is awesome.
It's so good.
It's no man's land, but a woman can handle it.
We are not men.
Oh God, I love it so much.
Game of Thrones, that's different. But that scene is, in the second viewing of Wonder Woman for me, I found it to be one of the most moving ones. It's so victorious. It's so full of compassion and hope. I mean, I actually heard people. I'm glad I didn't go to. I mean, I'm glad I went to a regular screening instead of like another press or whatever screening, and because people applauded when she was compassionate. Like when she stood up to that general and was like, "How dare you make your life more valuable than theirs? How dare you sit in here instead of go out and fight with your men?" And then this is another scene where we see why this all matters. Why is this important? But Patty Jenkins had to fight really hard for this. It's my favorite scene in the movie, and it's the most important scene in the movie. It's also the scene that made the least sense to other people going in, which is why it's a wonderful victory for me. I think that in superhero movies, they fight other people, they fight villains. So when I started to really hunker in on the significance of no man's land, there were a couple people who were deeply confused, wondering like, well, what is she going to do? How many bullets can she fight? And I kept saying, it's not about that. This is a different scene than that. This is a scene about her becoming Wonder Woman. Because I think misunderstanding that is fundamentally misunderstanding the character. And I have to give this movie major props for getting her right, because her thing is she's very compassionate, she's very full of love, and she's not gonna just run into battle and start ripping heads off of bodies. She's going to give you a reason why she cares. Why does she fight? You know, earlier on in the movie, her mom says, you need to understand that war is not glorious. It's something we want to avoid if at all possible.
Yeah, this dynamic of producer in room with creative mind and the producer saying, well, where are the bad guys? How many bullets can she fight? Is what's been wrong with all the Warner Brothers movies. That
person is what's wrong with Warner Brothers.
Right, because that instinct really characterizes what's been missing. And so the only way I could watch Batman versus Superman is while cleaning my house, because then I wasn't really paying enough attention to it to hold it accountable for all its transgressions. But I could check in every now and then. But there were no moments, and there have been very few moments throughout most Warner Brothers movies for me, superhero movies, for me to like someone or understand how they feel about literally anything. In any kind of nuanced way or like positive way, because it's always like brooding and like I'm damaged. But this is a not damaged person. That is someone who has this optimistic view of everything, and then this is the process of her getting disillusioned, and so and then trying to step up against that once she first sees the horrors of war, and it's exactly what we need. Not to mention, it is masterfully pulled off from a fight scene point of view.
Oh, that was a good scene right after. But I think this also describes that you are able to hold ideals and to be idealistic, but without being, considered a stupid person or a naive person for wanting this, for not giving in to cynicism or negativity. And I really appreciated this in this movie. I'm so glad that she won that fight. And I don't have any reason to believe this besides context clues. I feel like she had to fight hard all the way against Warner Brothers and their interference and the way they've screwed up the last movies and how tone deaf they've been.
Yeah.
This movie was such a breath of fresh air, not just in general, but for the idea that a superhero movie from DC can be the opposite of garbage.
I mean, why do you think it was successful? Like, what makes it so good? Is it this kind of stuff, or were there other elements that made it enjoyable to you?
I think there were so many elements that made it enjoyable to me. I love her as a character, and I love that they made love as a concept, not something to be laughed at, but something to be admired and something to try and see in yourself and try to emulate in real life. I loved that how true they were to the character and her world, the Amazons, their mascara, Steve. Oh, I loved Steve.
So that's the thing for me.
I might be in love with Steve Trevor.
I'm in love with her. Are you kidding me?
That's what I keep hearing.
It was rough, dude. It was rough on me watching it. I went alone yesterday to prepare for this. So I was sitting there in the middle. I was at the ArcLight, like in a nice comfortable seat, eating like a hot dog or whatever those like fancy sausages that they give you are. And I'm just sitting there looking at the screen. And it's just not fair. It's just not fair. And
how beautiful she is?
How beautiful she is, but not just that, like her micro expressions, like she's a conduit to this human spirit, I guess, is what she's supposed to be.
She's the bridge to a greater understanding.
Right. So and it worked because they just go right in on her face, and every like half reaction she has, every tightening of the areas around her eyes, I just got it, and I'm like, I need to change to become a better person.
Yeah.
When I shouldn't eat bad hot dogs, it's all nitrates. Like that's how I was reacting. And then not just her, but Chris Pine is just charming.
I loved him.
And together, and
it ruined me when what happened happened.
Thank you. They hired him for the charm of Captain Kirk. And that was really what they needed, was a utility player, like someone who would bring that to a superhero movie, someone who actually has a human sense of humor. And that's what's been missing from all of them, all the Amy Adams and the...
Oh, that's what was missing, joy.
Joy,
levity.
People, like weird misunderstandings, those moments that are all over things like Guardians and all over all the Marvel movies where it's just two people connecting in a way that people would have to do to get through the giant tragedies that are befalling mankind. Because that is also a coping mechanism in addition to coming up with the plan to kill the bad guy. And I think this is an origin story, to get back to what makes her story so good. The big bad at the end is just kind of like an ancillary character as far as I'm concerned, that meets out like the themes of the movie as opposed to necessarily the plot. And because it's an origin story, they get away with that. And because there's enough really cool interactions between her and me as a viewer, because I'm in love with her, I was thinking, like, you know, in American Gods, that first scene where the guy gets sucked into the goddess. Like I was like, yeah, I will worship you. I'll take it. I'm willing. I will give you everything.
Quist is a different kind of God than Diana.
But I'm just saying, like she's
Diana would never want that.
I know it. That's why I get it.
Jesus. Well,
I'm just saying, I'd let her succubus me.
I just think that was a very triumphant scene in this particular medium, and it described.
What brings me the most joy is we're doing another Wonder Woman video after this later, so I'm like,
yeah, we're gonna probably mention this again. Great. I've reviewed this before. What the Flicks reviewed this before. I have a lot of reasons why I would love this movie and why I might like a particular scene more than the other. Audience, what was your favorite scene in Wonder Woman and why? Please let us know below, and please like and subscribe for more.